In the stillness of the desert, beneath the boundless sky, the great pyramids rise, silent and eternal. These monumental structures, hewn from the very earth they stand upon, evoke a sense of awe that transcends mere physical presence. The sheer scale of their construction humbles the human spirit, for they were not built for the sake of mere grandeur, but to carve into the fabric of time itself, marking the passage of an ancient civilization that reached heights few could ever imagine. And yet, as we stand before them, their origins remain veiled in mystery, their purpose only whispered by the winds that dance between their stone faces. The builders of the pyramids were no ordinary men. They were visionaries, sculptors of history, dreamers who transformed impossible ideas into tangible reality. Their work, their legacy is not simply the pyramids themselves, but the art of constructing something so lasting, so monumentally immense, that it could withstand millennia of erosion, war, and the shifting sands of time. These structures, designed not merely as tombs but as gateways between the world of the living and the divine, reflect an understanding of life and death that feels both alien and familiar. At the heart of the pyramid, it seems, lies a mystery, a question that, even now, refuses to be answered fully. How were these colossal monuments constructed? The prevailing theories, some grounded in scholarly rigor, others more speculative, attempt to answer this, but all fall short of providing a comprehensive explanation. With each stone, weighing tons, placed with mathematical precision, the labor required for such a feat becomes almost unfathomable. Yet we know that the people who built these marvels did not possess the machinery or tools we take for granted today. How then did they manage to construct such immensity, with methods we can only imagine? The ancient Egyptians left no detailed records of the methods employed in building the pyramids, no blueprints, no journals describing the laborious process. What we are left with are theories, conjectures based on scraps of evidence. Some suggest vast ramps stretching for miles upon which workers dragged the stones. Others propose that the pyramids were built in a spiral, winding their way upwards. Still others speculate on more mystical explanations, ancient knowledge lost to time, advanced techniques lost in the sands of history. Whatever the truth may be, it is forever obscured, leaving us with nothing but wonder and speculation. Perhaps it is not only the how that eludes us, but the why. The purpose of the pyramids transcends the simple act of burial. They were meant to transcend death, to ensure the immortality of the pharaohs. But why such immense structures? Why the exact alignment with the stars? Why the intricate design that reflects a deep understanding of geometry and the cosmos? Did the builders foresee the pyramids standing as testaments to their civilization's greatness? Or was there a deeper, more profound purpose embedded in their creation, one that remains just out of reach like a forgotten dream? It is this uncertainty that casts a shadow over the pyramids, a shadow that stretches beyond their towering heights and beyond their place in history. The grandeur of the pyramids is tempered by the knowledge that there is something hidden, something that lies just beneath the surface. It is as if the stones themselves whisper a secret that the centuries have failed to reveal. There is something eternal about these monuments, something that defies time. But in that very eternity lies the unanswered question: what was truly in the mind of the builders? What vision drove them to carve their legacy into the desert? Each passing century has only deepened the enigma of the pyramids. Archaeologists, historians, and scholars have all sought to uncover the truth, but each discovery only leads to more questions. It is a puzzle that seems designed to remain unsolved, a riddle wrapped in the impenetrable silence of the ages. And so we are left with our awe and reverence, awed by the sheer audacity of the undertaking, reverent toward the wisdom and perseverance of those who crafted these monumental feats of engineering. And yet, There is something haunting about the absence of answers. For in the vast empty spaces between the stones and the quiet winds that stir the desert, there is a sense that the truth, the whole truth, remains hidden, locked within the walls of the pyramids. The grandeur of Egypt's monuments is not only a reflection of the brilliance of those who built them, but also a mirror to the great unknowns that continue to elude us. They stand not just as a testament to the past, but as a reminder of how much is still left to discover. In the shadow of the pyramids, we are left with wonder, reverence, and an unshakable sense of mystery, forever drawn to the ancient stones and forever unable to fully comprehend the purpose behind their creation. The builder's legacy endures, but it is a legacy laced with secrets, a legacy that will never cease to spark the imagination of those who gaze upon these timeless structures. The great stones of the pyramids stand as mute sentinels to the ingenuity of a civilization long past. Yet beneath their sheer mass, behind every perfectly hewn block, lies a darker, more unsettling truth. The hands that shaped them, the minds that conceived them, remain anonymous. There are no names etched into the granite, no faces preserved in stone. The architects, the true visionaries whose brilliance turned stone into celestial alignments, are lost to time, their identities obscured, their legacies erased. We know nothing of the men who designed the pyramids, only the pharaohs under whom they were supposedly constructed. The names of the architects, though, seem to have been deliberately expunged from history. But why? It is a question that echoes through the annals of history, unanswered. The more one considers it, the more troubling it becomes. How could a civilization so focused on its immortality, so intent on preserving its greatness for eternity, allow such a profound disservice to those who made it all possible? The pyramids are more than just grand structures. They are the very embodiment of power, precision, and ambition. Their construction required not only the labor of countless workers, but the genius of unknown architects, men whose vision reached beyond the limits of their time. And yet these men remain nameless, forgotten. This deliberate erasure of the builder's identity speaks not just to the transient nature of human achievement, but to a deeper, darker current of political motivation. In ancient Egypt, power and recognition were tightly interwoven. Pharaohs, as living gods, demanded that their names be immortalized. Their faces adorned temples, their names inscribed on obelisks, their likenesses carved into every monument. The idea of a king's greatness was inextricable from the grand structures they commissioned, from the vast tombs built in their honor. But there was something more at play. Something that left the architects and master builders in the shadows. In a civilization where power was divinely sanctioned, where rulers were considered gods upon earth, the recognition of any creator outside the pharaohs themselves was a threat to the established order. The pharaohs were not just rulers, they were the living embodiment of the gods, the intermediaries between the divine and the mortal. The idea that such monumental structures could be conceived by mere mortals, however skilled and brilliant, was anathema to the very system that upheld royal authority. If the architects' names were known, it would shift the focus from the pharaohs to the men who had the intelligence and insight to build the pyramids. The balance of power could not tolerate this. Thus, the erasure of the architects' identities can be seen as an act of control, a political maneuver to keep the focus squarely on the divine rulers, ensuring that no one outside the royal family could ever claim ownership over the creation of such sacred monuments. The architects, as brilliant as they were, became pawns in a larger game of divine authority and historical manipulation. They built the pyramids, yes, but the pharaohs took the credit. The architects, whose designs were visionary and transformative, were relegated to the shadows of time, their contributions obscured by the very civilization they helped build. This deliberate attempt to wipe away the names of the architects is not just a historical oversight, It is a haunting testament to the lengths to which those in power will go to ensure that their dominion is never questioned. In erasing these names, Egypt's rulers ensured that no one would ever know the full extent of the genius that lay behind their monuments. The glory would always be theirs alone. The architects, despite their monumental achievements, were reduced to nothing more than faceless laborers, tools in the hands of the powerful. Their brilliance, their intellect, their very humanity were subsumed beneath the divine mantle of the pharaohs. The sadness of this erasure is compounded by the fact that much of the knowledge that could have revealed these architects' identities has long been lost. The scrolls, the tablets, the written records that may have told their stories, if they ever existed, are gone. Destroyed, perhaps, in the burning of libraries or lost to time. In their absence, all we have are fragments of their work, the pyramids themselves, whose grandeur is a testament to their skill. But without the names of the men who dreamed these wonders into existence, we are left with nothing but speculation and regret. It is a tragedy that speaks to the fragility of knowledge and the fleeting nature of recognition. The pyramids, as incredible as they are also a symbol of how easily the contributions of those who shape history can be forgotten or overlooked. And while the stones themselves remain eternal and unyielding, the lives of the men who built them are lost in the sands of time. There are no statues to them, no inscriptions proclaiming their genius, no temples in their honor. There is only the silence of their absence. And yet, despite this silence, there is something profound in the very fact that the architects remain nameless. Perhaps in some way, this absence is the most enduring testament to their greatness. For in the shadows of history, where their identities are hidden, their work speaks louder than any inscription could. The grandeur of the pyramids, their precision, their majesty cannot be diminished by the fact that we do not know who built them. Their brilliance, their genius transcends the need for names. It is as if the architects themselves chose to remain in the background, their legacy existing not in recognition but in the work itself. But this too is a bitter irony. The very brilliance that led to the creation of such monumental works was ultimately stifled by the very system that should have celebrated it. The pyramids are not just a tribute to the pharaohs, but to the men whose names were erased from history. In the silence of their erasure, the architect's true legacy endures, an eternal reminder of the cost of power and the price paid by those who, in their brilliance, were forgotten. And so, as we gaze upon these timeless monuments, we must ask ourselves, what does it mean to build something that lasts for millennia, yet remains untouched by history's hand? The pyramids are both a triumph and a tragedy, a celebration of human achievement and a haunting reminder of the price of erasure. The architects of the pyramids, though they remain nameless, have left their mark on the world, their genius woven into the very stones of Egypt. The question then is not whether they will be remembered, but whether we, as a civilization, will ever fully recognize the true nature of their contribution. Beneath the towering stone facades of the Great Pyramid lies a labyrinth of hidden chambers and secret passages, darkened corridors where the truth remains concealed. For centuries, adventurers, archaeologists, and scholars have descended into these enigmatic spaces, their torches flickering in the gloom, hoping to unravel the mysteries of what lies within. Yet despite their best efforts, much remains unexplored, undisturbed, as if the very stones themselves guard a secret too profound for mortal minds to comprehend. The interior of the Great Pyramid, known as the Pyramid of Khufu, is a place where the passage of time seems to halt, where ancient forces still whisper beneath the weight of the stone. The known chambers, the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, and the Grand Gallery, are marvels of ancient engineering, each one an intricate part of a larger enigmatic design. But for all the wonders these chambers reveal, there are many more that have remained shrouded in mystery. Hidden behind false walls, tucked away in the darkest recesses of the pyramid's core, lie spaces yet to be fully explored. What lies within these uncharted depths? What secrets have been intentionally kept from view? Over the years, various theories have emerged, some grounded in historical fact, others more speculative, but all centering around the idea that the Great Pyramid harbors chambers that remain out of reach. One of the most intriguing theories is the existence of hidden rooms containing treasures, gold, artifacts, and scrolls imbued with sacred knowledge. These treasures are said to have been placed there perhaps by the ancient priests to accompany the pharaoh on his journey into the afterlife. Some believe the pyramid itself is a tomb of unimaginable wealth, not just for Khufu, but for an entire dynasty of rulers whose burial rites transcended what we can comprehend. Other theories suggest that these hidden chambers were designed not to house material riches, but to protect something far more elusive: knowledge. It is whispered that the Great Pyramid, in its profound complexity, might have served as a repository of sacred wisdom, an archive of lost knowledge from a time when the understanding of the cosmos was far more advanced than we can fathom. Perhaps there are scrolls or texts concealed in the hidden recesses of the pyramid that contain secrets about the creation of the world, the movements of the stars, or even the very nature of existence itself. The ancient Egyptians were known to possess a deep understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering, and some believe they encoded this wisdom into the very structure of the pyramid. Could these secret chambers be a vault for this sacred knowledge, kept hidden to preserve it from being lost to the ages? The most tantalizing theories, however, go beyond even this. Some scholars and theorists claim that the pyramid may not just be a tomb or a monument, but a device, an artifact of extraordinary power. Hidden chambers, it is said, could house technologies far beyond what the ancient Egyptians were known to have possessed. Could the pyramid have been a giant machine of some sort, an energy source perhaps, or a tool for manipulating forces beyond the realm of human understanding? In the absence of conclusive evidence, these ideas remain speculative, but the possibility that something far more enigmatic than a burial tomb lies within the Great Pyramid cannot be completely dismissed. As excavations and scanning technologies have advanced in recent decades, new and more precise ways of exploring the pyramid have come to light. Ground-penetrating radar, infrared scans, and other non-invasive techniques have revealed anomalies in the structure, empty spaces, hidden cavities, and unexplained voids deep within the pyramid's heart. These discoveries have sparked renewed interest in the idea that something lies beneath, waiting to be uncovered. Despite these modern advancements, much of the pyramid remains a mystery. The very stone that was meticulously shaped and placed in such a precise and deliberate manner seems to resist revealing its deepest secrets, as if it is aware of the knowledge it contains and determined to guard it. But why, one might ask, would such knowledge or treasure be hidden in the first place? Why go to such lengths to conceal what lies beneath the surface of the pyramid? Could it be that the builders, aware of the power and potential danger of the secrets they protected, intentionally designed the pyramid to be a fortress of mystery? Perhaps the contents of these hidden chambers were meant to remain forever beyond reach, ensuring that only those deemed worthy would ever uncover the truths concealed within? Or could it be that the secrets buried beneath the stone were too dangerous for anyone to possess, even the rulers of Egypt themselves? For all the advancements in modern technology, we are still left with more questions than answers. The deeper we delve into the Great Pyramid's secrets, the more elusive they become. Even the most sophisticated methods of exploration, such as the sending of robotic probes into narrow shafts, or the use of scanners to analyze hidden chambers, have not yielded definitive answers. What lies within those darkened passages? What treasures or knowledge await those brave enough to enter? The pyramid itself, with its vast, silent presence, seems to be daring us to uncover the truth. It is this sense of mystery, the feeling that the pyramid holds a secret that will forever remain out of our grasp, that creates an atmosphere of both awe and frustration. For all the centuries of study, all the technology at our disposal, we have yet to fully understand the design of the Great Pyramid. Each new discovery seems to only deepen the mystery, pushing us further into the unknown. It is as though the pyramid, in its enormity and complexity, has been constructed not just as a monument to a king, but as a challenge to all who seek to understand its true purpose. The allure of the pyramid lies not just in its size or its historical significance, but in the way it continues to confound us, to withhold its deepest secrets. There is something undeniably magnetic about the idea that beneath the stone, hidden within the pyramid's ancient walls, lies knowledge. Knowledge that could alter our understanding of the past and perhaps the very fabric of reality itself. As the years pass, the mystery grows. Each new layer of discovery brings us closer, but the final truth remains elusive, a tantalizing promise that may never be fully realized. Yet it is this very mystery that continues to draw us in. Like moths to a flame, we are compelled to search for answers, to uncover what has been hidden for millennia. And as we stand before the Great Pyramid, gazing upon its monumental stone face, we cannot help but wonder. What secrets still lie beneath, waiting for the day when we will finally unlock the truths hidden within? The air in the Valley of the Kings is thick with the weight of centuries, heavy with history, with power, with a lingering sense of something otherworldly. Amid the windswept hills, beneath the golden desert sun, lies the resting place of the pharaohs, rulers whose names were meant to endure for eternity. Yet for all their majesty, for all their divine right, there is a shadow that hangs over their tombs. It is a shadow of fear, of superstition, of a force that promises retribution for those who dare disturb the slumber of Egypt's most powerful. These are the curses of the tomb, ancient words of warning whispered through the ages, promising vengeance for the trespasses of mortals who seek to uncover the secrets of the dead. Few curses have echoed through time with as much terror and intrigue as the curse of Tutankhamun's tomb. The discovery of the boy king's resting place in 1922 by British archaeologist Howard Carter sent shockwaves through the world. The tomb, buried beneath the earth for over 3,000 years, had been sealed with all the reverence and security befitting Egypt's most sacred monarch. And yet, when Carter and his team broke through the final barrier, when they entered the tomb and laid eyes upon the treasures of a long-dead king, they unleashed something far darker than they could have ever imagined. It was said that a curse awaited anyone who dared disturb the tomb. The ancient Egyptians believed that the souls of the dead required protection, and that to violate their tombs would bring wrath upon the living. Inscriptions on the tomb's walls, though not entirely legible, were interpreted as warnings, invoking the gods to strike down those who defiled the resting places of Egypt's pharaohs. The inscriptions seemed to promise death, a death that would come swiftly to anyone who dared enter Tutankhamun's sacred burial place. This belief was enough to instill fear even in the most experienced archaeologists and explorers. But the discovery of the tomb would soon cast the curse into the realm of the real. Just months after the tomb's opening, a series of untimely deaths befell those connected to its discovery, stirring whispers that the ancient curse had indeed been unleashed. The most notable was the death of Lord Carnarvon, the British noble who financed the expedition. On April 5, 1923, only months after the tomb was opened, Carnarvon died suddenly from an infected mosquito bite, a seemingly ordinary cause that would be dismissed as coincidence if not for the eerie timing. His death sparked an outpouring of dread across the globe. Was it just a tragic accident, or had the curse truly claimed its first victim? In the wake of Carnarvon's death, more would follow. Sir Bruce Ingram, a close friend of Carter's, narrowly escaped death when a fire destroyed his house, but not before his dog, who had been present at the tomb's opening, mysteriously died. Another member of the excavation team, George Gould, passed away in his sleep under strange circumstances. These deaths, though explained away by some as coincidences, became part of a growing narrative that the curse was real, that the pharaoh had indeed struck down those who had dared to disturb his eternal rest. As the years passed, the deaths surrounding the tomb's discovery seemed to continue. It was said that nearly 20 people associated with the excavation met untimely ends, some through illness, others in strange accidents. This growing list of casualties was enough to send a chill through the hearts of many, especially those who had participated in the excavation. The more the curse spread through popular imagination, the more it seemed to latch onto the events surrounding the tomb. Each new death was taken as evidence that the curse had taken hold, and as the years wore on, it seemed as though no one who had touched the tomb could escape its reach. But while the death toll seemed to build, there were others who dismissed these events as mere superstition, a series of tragic coincidences exacerbated by the sensationalism of the media. They pointed out that the scientific methods of archaeology and the historical evidence did not align with the ancient beliefs in curses. The tomb of Tutankhamun, they argued, was simply a tomb, a burial place for a young king who had been forgotten by history until his tomb was rediscovered. The deaths, they said, were unrelated to any ancient curse, but were instead a product of the harsh realities of life in the early 20th century, where medical care and hygiene were not as advanced as they are today. Yet as time has passed, the eerie mystery of the curse has only grown. Even those who would try to explain it away cannot deny the strange coincidences that surround Tutankhamun's tomb. Was it simply the power of belief that caused so many deaths? A collective fear that spiraled out of control? Or was there something more to the curse, a dark, supernatural force that transcended human understanding? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between these explanations, in the space where myth and history intertwine. In ancient Egypt, the pharaohs were seen as divine rulers chosen by the gods to rule over both the living and the dead. To disturb the tomb of a pharaoh was to challenge the gods themselves, and in doing so, one might invite their wrath. The curse was not just an expression of fear. It was a deeply ingrained belief in the power of the divine to exact vengeance on those who desecrated the sacred. For the ancient Egyptians, the tombs were more than burial sites. They were sanctuaries protected by the gods where the ruler's soul would be shielded for eternity. The curse, then, was not simply a legend. It was an acknowledgement of the sacredness of the tombs, a reminder that the dead were to be left in peace, for any disturbance could disrupt the cosmic order. As eerie as the curse surrounding Tutankhamun's tomb is, it also reflects a deeper truth about the ancient Egyptians' relationship with death and the afterlife. The curse serves as a warning, not just for those who trespass on sacred ground, but for all who seek to unravel the mysteries of the dead. The tombs of the pharaohs were not just burial sites. They were the final bastions of power, the ultimate defense against the ravages of time. They were meant to protect the ruler's soul for all eternity, and in this protection lay a fierce and unwavering force, a force that would punish those who dared to uncover it. In the end, the Curse of Tutankhamun's tomb is a reminder that some mysteries should remain unsolved, some doors left unopened. It is a lesson written in both history and myth, one that speaks to the reverence and awe with which the ancient Egyptians regarded their rulers, and the dire consequences that came with challenging that reverence. The curse may or may not have been real, but its legacy endures, haunting the tombs of Egypt's pharaohs and reminding us that sometimes the dead have the power to reach beyond the grave. The whispers of the curse linger, carried on the winds of the desert, a warning that still echoes through the ages. The ancient Egyptians, more than any other civilization, seemed obsessed with one idea: immortality. In the vast expanse of their history, from the first dynasties to the end of the pharaonic era, the desire to transcend death permeated their culture, their religion, and their politics. Pharaohs, considered gods on earth, sought not only to rule the living but to reign over the dead, believing that death was but a threshold to a higher existence, a continuation of their divine power beyond the mortal realm. The tombs they built, vast and intricate, were not mere burial places. They were grand stages for the afterlife, meant to preserve the identity and power of the pharaoh for eternity. The construction of these tombs, whether the massive pyramids of the Old Kingdom or the more elaborate rock-hewn tombs of the New Kingdom, was a testament to this unyielding ambition to defeat the one force that no ruler, no god, could conquer: death itself. In their search for immortality, the pharaohs employed rituals that were both magnificent and terrifying in their scope. The burial of a pharaoh was a grand, sacred affair. The body was meticulously preserved, embalmed, and entombed with everything the ruler might need in the afterlife: treasures, statues, food, clothing, and even chariots. The tombs were decorated with paintings that depicted scenes of eternal life, of the pharaoh hunting, feasting, and engaging with the gods. These images, meant to serve as guides, were believed to ensure the pharaoh's continued existence beyond the grave, securing a place in the divine realm where they would enjoy eternal power and luxury. But behind these awe-inspiring rituals lay a fundamental truth: the harsh reality of mortality. Despite all the efforts to stave off death, the tombs, once sealed, became nothing more than quiet, empty spaces, sacred sanctuaries that would slowly fall silent and cold. The pharaohs, like all men, were destined to become dust. Their tombs, so full of life and power at the moment of their burial, would become nothing more than sealed chambers. Hidden beneath layers of stone and earth, their contents decaying over the centuries. There is a profound irony in the burial practices of the ancient Egyptians. In their quest to overcome death, they created tombs that would last millennia. Yet no matter how grand their final resting places, no matter how lavish their rituals, they could not halt the inevitable decay of time. The grand pyramids, the meticulously crafted mummies, the endless treasures, all were meant to preserve something that, in the end, was always slipping away. Time, relentless and unstoppable, would eventually claim even the most carefully constructed of tombs, leaving behind only the dust of forgotten kings. As we stand before these tombs today, whether in the shadow of the Great Pyramid or in the quiet tombs of the Valley of the Kings, we are confronted not with the glory of ancient rulers, but with the eerie silence of death's final victory. The tombs, though magnificent in their design, are reminders of a lost world, of rulers who once believed they could bend the very forces of nature to their will, yet who were themselves powerless before the passage of time. It is in this silence, in the stillness of these tombs that have been sealed for millennia, that the true cost of immortality is revealed. The pharaohs, despite their immense power and wealth, were not immune to death. They may have been divine in life, but in death they were no different than any other mortal. The gilded sarcophagi, the golden death masks, the priceless treasures, these were symbols of human ambition, of the desire to cheat the inevitable. But in the end, they are only relics of a past that no longer speaks, the mute testimony to the realization that immortality is an illusion. The pursuit of eternal life, while understandable in its grandeur and nobility, carries with it a deep and melancholy cost. The tombs of the pharaohs, once filled with the bustle of workers and priests, with the hustle and bustle of preparations for the afterlife, are now eerily still. The riches once destined for a ruler's eternal life have long since been plundered, lost to time, to grave robbers, to the unforgiving sands of Egypt. What remains are the bones, the silent reminders that even the most elaborate plans to defy death cannot halt the inevitable march of time. In the quiet depths of these tombs there is a sense of something profound being lost. The grandeur and the splendor of these burial places, the magnificent treasures and monuments, stand in stark contrast to the reality of what they represent: the finality of death. The tombs, once symbols of power and divine rule, are now just empty chambers, holding only the remains of long-dead kings. The desire to transcend death, to achieve immortality, has left them cold and lifeless, just as it will leave us all in the end. But in their silence, these tombs also tell a deeper story of human ambition, of the eternal struggle against mortality. They are a reminder that no matter how grand our achievements, no matter how much we attempt to secure our legacy, we are all bound by the same fate. The pharaoh's quest for immortality in the end was not just a matter of seeking eternal life, but of creating meaning in the face of inevitable death. In their tombs, they sought not only to preserve their bodies and possessions, but to preserve their significance, to ensure that their names would live on, that they would not be forgotten by the living. Yet even as the tombs of the pharaohs stand silent, they continue to speak. They are the ultimate paradox, symbols of death, yet also of the eternal human drive to transcend it. The price of immortality, it seems, is not just the vast resources spent in pursuit of it, but the inevitable realization that death, in all its quiet, inescapable finality, is a force beyond our reach. The tombs, sealed and silent, remind us of this truth, an unsettling truth that continues to echo across the millennia. Immortality may be a dream, but death is the only certainty. In the quiet corners of Egypt's tombs, where the air is thick with the scent of ancient dust, lie the silent witnesses to a civilization long past. The mummies of Egypt's pharaohs, queens, and nobles rest in stillness, preserved for eternity in the hope that their souls might live on beyond the grave. These lifeless figures, so perfectly embalmed, so carefully wrapped in linen, gaze into the endless abyss of time. But while their bodies may be still, their presence seems to stir something far more unsettling. A sense that they, the very dead, still hold power over the living. When the tombs of Egypt's rulers were unearthed by archaeologists and adventurers, they did not simply uncover treasures. They disturbed the peace of the dead, awakening a force that many believe was never meant to be roused. The mummies, once shrouded in eternal darkness, were exposed to the harsh light of the outside world. And in the aftermath, the world was marked by strange coincidences, untimely deaths, and inexplicable misfortunes, stories that have lingered in the whispers of history, suggesting that the mummies in their eternal slumber were capable of more than just remaining dead. The most infamous tale of this unsettling phenomenon is the Curse of the Mummy's Revenge, an eerie thread of stories linking the discovery of certain royal tombs and their mummies to a series of unexplained deaths and misfortunes. The most notable of these cases surrounds the unearthing of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922. As archaeologist Howard Carter and his team pried open the entrance to the boy king's tomb, they could never have anticipated the shadow that would fall over them. Within the sealed tomb, under the golden mask of Tutankhamun, lay a body that had been untouched for over 3 millennia. A king who had once ruled over all of Egypt, his mortal remains now preserved in a state of terrifying perfection. But as the tomb was opened, a chilling legend began to unfold. It is said that those who disturbed the tomb of Tutankhamun, the boy king, were cursed to face dire consequences. The first and most famous victim of the curse was Lord Carnarvon, the British aristocrat who financed the excavation. He died unexpectedly of an infected mosquito bite just months after the tomb's opening. His death was swift, sudden, and according to some, eerily timed. It was as though the curse, long dormant, had found its first victim. In the wake of Carnarvon's death, a wave of tragic events followed. Carter's dog, which had been present during the excavation, was said to have been killed by a mysterious attack. Other members of the expedition, such as Sir Bruce Ingram and George Gould, suffered strange accidents or died under mysterious circumstances. These eerie events stoked the fires of superstition, with some claiming that the mummies, disturbed from their tombs, had exacted their revenge on those who had dared to disturb their peace. But the curse was not confined to Tutankhamun alone. The tombs of other pharaohs, such as Ramses II and Seti I, have also been linked to inexplicable misfortunes. The discovery of Ramses II's tomb in the early 19th century came with its own strange tale. The death of a prominent archaeologist whose ill health worsened soon after the excavation led to a belief that the tomb's curse had once again taken hold. These stories, spread across time and space, have created a sense of foreboding that permeates the very act of unearthing the dead. The mummies, though long past their earthly reign, seem to retain a sense of power, one that lingers in the tombs, even as the world moves on around them. There is something chilling in the idea that these ancient beings, preserved by the most advanced techniques of their time, might still harbor a connection to the mortal world, a connection that could be called upon in the most unexpected ways. The very act of disturbing their slumber, of opening their tombs and unraveling the secrets they were meant to keep, has created an unsettling bridge between the living and the dead. These mummies, wrapped in linen and sealed in sarcophagi, should be nothing more than relics of the past. And yet, there is a growing sense that they are far more than that they have a presence, a lingering power capable of reaching beyond their sealed chambers. This belief in the mummies' continued influence is not just a product of modern superstition. It is rooted in the ancient Egyptian worldview itself. The Egyptians believed that death was not an end, but a continuation of the journey into the afterlife. The soul, or Ka, was meant to live on for eternity, and the body, though no longer active in the mortal world, was crucial to the soul's survival. To disturb the body, whether by robbing the tomb, opening the sarcophagus, or unwrapping the mummy, was to risk condemning oneself to the wrath of the deceased. The tomb, after all, was not just a burial site. It was a sacred space meant to protect the deceased and facilitate their transition to the next world. To violate it was to challenge the gods themselves, to defy the cosmic order. In the modern world, we cannot help but be drawn to the idea that these mummies, these silent witnesses, might still hold sway over us. The idea that they have power over the living is not so easily dismissed. The strange occurrences that followed the opening of Tutankhamun's tomb, and the deaths and tragedies associated with other royal tombs, speak to something beyond coincidence. Was it mere happenstance that so many people connected to the discovery of these tombs met untimely and tragic fates? Or was there something more, something unseen that influenced these events? In the quiet, sealed darkness of the tombs, the mummies remain undisturbed, waiting. The lingering sense of unease that surrounds these mummies is perhaps best illustrated by the idea that they are witnesses, silent witnesses to history, to the passage of time, and to the actions of those who dare uncover what was meant to remain hidden. In a sense, the mummies are not just dead. They are guardians, protectors of the secrets of the past. To disturb them is not just to unearth history, but to invoke something ancient, something powerful, that should remain buried. And perhaps in their silence they remain ever watchful, ever present, waiting for the next disturbance, the next soul to tread too closely to their eternal slumber. In the darkness of Egypt's tombs, the mummies sleep on, preserved by ancient rituals, but perhaps not entirely at rest. Their stories, both real and imagined, continue to echo across the ages, casting a long shadow over the world of the living. Their power, though dormant, is not forgotten. In their silence, they still speak, warning us that the past, though buried, is never truly gone. In the shadow of Egypt's towering pyramids, beyond the mummies and tombs, lies another mystery, a deeper, more elusive riddle that has captured the imagination of scholars, mystics, and seekers of knowledge for millennia. It is the mystery of the Books of Thoth, a collection of texts that, according to legend, held the very secrets of the universe. Wisdom so potent and so profound that it could alter the fabric of reality itself. These books, attributed to Thoth, the Egyptian god of writing, wisdom, and magic, are said to contain knowledge of the creation of the world, the cosmic laws governing existence, and even the means to transcend death. Yet despite their legendary status, these sacred scrolls have been lost to time, their contents erased, suppressed, or destroyed, leaving only whispers of their existence to echo through the ages. Thoth, depicted with the head of an ibis and often associated with the moon, was more than just a god of writing. He was believed to be the very source of all knowledge. In Egyptian mythology, Thoth was credited with the creation of writing itself, as well as the establishment of order in the cosmos. As the divine scribe, he not only recorded the deeds of gods and men, but also maintained the balance of the universe, ensuring that the laws of nature and the dictates of fate were obeyed. The Books of Thoth were said to be his greatest creation, works of unparalleled wisdom, filled with the mysteries of the cosmos and the teachings that would lead to enlightenment. Yet these books were not just texts. They were considered to be instruments of immense power. They were said to contain the ancient knowledge of creation, teachings that could unlock the secrets of the universe and grant access to forbidden realms. Some believed that the Books of Thoth held the key to immortality, containing hidden truths that could transcend the physical world and allow one to access divine realms. Others whispered that these books were far more dangerous, that the knowledge contained within them was so potent, so transformative, that it could tear apart the very fabric of existence if it were ever misused. The Books of Thoth were said to be so sacred and so powerful that they were kept hidden from all but the highest priests of Egypt. To read them was to risk uncovering knowledge that could alter the course of history, for better or for worse. According to some accounts, Thoth himself concealed the books, hiding them away in a secret chamber guarded by powerful magic and formidable curses. It is said that only the most worthy, those with pure hearts and the proper training, could hope to decipher the cryptic writings and understand the ancient wisdom contained within. But as time passed, the Books of Thoth became more than just a myth. They were transformed into symbols of forbidden knowledge, objects of desire for scholars, magicians, and rulers alike, all seeking the power they were believed to contain. Yet no one ever succeeded in finding them. Despite countless searches, expeditions, and attempts to unlock their mysteries, the books remained lost, their secrets buried beneath the sands of Egypt. And as the centuries passed, the whispers of their existence became fainter, until they were little more than legends, fragments of a forgotten past that no one dared to revisit. The question, then, is not just where the Books of Thoth have gone, but why they disappeared in the first place. Why would such sacred, important knowledge be kept hidden? Why, after centuries of existence, would the ancient Egyptians deliberately conceal or destroy their own most powerful texts? There are several theories, each of which speaks to the nature of the relationship between the Egyptian rulers and the knowledge they possessed. One possibility is that the Books of Thoth were deliberately hidden to protect them from misuse. In the ancient world, knowledge was seen as a source of great power, and such power was never freely given. The priests and rulers of Egypt understood that the teachings contained within the books could be dangerous if they fell into the wrong hands. Perhaps they believed that the books were too potent, too dangerous for any mortal to possess. The knowledge contained within them, if misused, could unravel the very fabric of the world, unseating the gods themselves. It is possible that the books of Thoth were buried, sealed, and guarded in the hope that no one would ever find them, not because of their value, but because of the threat they posed. Another theory suggests that the books of Thoth were lost or erased in a more political sense. As Egypt's rulers moved from one dynasty to the next, many of the texts associated with the previous regime were purged, erased, or destroyed. The ruling class sought to erase the legacies of their predecessors, both to cement their own power and to control the narrative of history. Perhaps the books of Thoth were deemed too dangerous or subversive, challenging the established order of the gods and kings, and thus were destroyed or hidden away to ensure that no one would ever question the divine right of the ruling pharaohs. The loss of such knowledge would have been a deliberate effort to maintain control, to prevent any rise of opposition from those who might seek to wield the wisdom contained in the books against the rulers. Yet another theory posits that the books of Thoth were lost in the wake of Egypt's decline. With the fall of the great dynasties, invasions, and the eventual spread of other empires and religions, much of Egypt's ancient wisdom was lost. Perhaps the books were buried and forgotten, buried beneath rubble and sand as Egypt's great temples and monuments crumbled over time. In this interpretation, the loss of the books of Thoth was not a deliberate act but a consequence of the inevitable decline of civilization, a reminder that knowledge, no matter how sacred, can be swept away by the tides of history. For all the theories, however, one thing remains certain. The books of Thoth represent a profound loss. These texts were more than just scrolls. They were symbols of an ancient understanding of the universe, an understanding that we can no longer access despite our best efforts. Their loss is not just a loss of knowledge, but a loss of an entire worldview, a way of seeing the cosmos, of understanding the gods and their influence on the world of men. As we look to the past, to the ancient tombs and monuments of Egypt, we cannot help but feel the weight of what has been lost. The books of Thoth remain one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world, a tantalizing, elusive secret hidden away beneath the sands of time. And while we may never fully uncover their wisdom, their story continues to resonate, whispering through the ages as a reminder of the knowledge that once was, and of the dangers that lie in seeking to know too much. Perhaps in the end, it is better that some secrets remain buried, that some knowledge is never uncovered. The books of Thoth may never see the light of day again, but their legend endures, a shadow of forgotten wisdom that continues to haunt the very sands of Egypt. And perhaps in the quiet corners of the world, beneath the weight of millennia, that knowledge still waits, hidden, waiting to be discovered once more. The Library of Alexandria, once the greatest repository of knowledge the world had ever known, stands as a tragic symbol of both human achievement and loss. In its time, the library was the beacon of intellectual pursuit, a gathering place for the brightest minds of the ancient world, where scrolls and manuscripts from across the globe converged to form a vast and unparalleled collection. It was here that scholars, poets, philosophers, and scientists sought to unravel the mysteries of the universe, to expand the horizons of human understanding. And yet, despite its towering significance, the Library of Alexandria met a tragic end. Its destruction remains one of the most profound losses in the history of human civilization, a wound to knowledge itself. The library was founded in the 3rd century BCE under the reign of Ptolemy II Philadelphus, and quickly became a center of learning, attracting scholars from all corners of the known world. Its collections were vast, containing works from Egypt, Greece, Persia, India, and beyond. Within its walls were texts that chronicled the knowledge of the ancient civilizations, ranging from science and mathematics to literature and philosophy. It was said that the library housed hundreds of thousands of scrolls, each one a testament to the intellectual achievements of its time, each one a thread in the grand tapestry of human thought. The library was not just a repository of information, it was a symbol of enlightenment, a beacon of the potential for human discovery. But as much as the library represented the height of human achievement, it was also a fragile thing, vulnerable to the ravages of time, political strife, and war. The exact circumstances of its destruction remain shrouded in mystery, with no single event to explain the library's tragic demise. It is said that the library suffered from a series of attacks, starting with the burning of the Serapeum in 391 CE, when the library's secondary collection housed in the Temple of Serapis was destroyed. This act of destruction, though devastating, was not the final blow. The library's ultimate downfall came during the reign of Emperor Aurelian in the 3rd century CE, when his forces sacked Alexandria during a campaign to reclaim the city from Queen Zenobia of Palmyra. It is believed that many of the scrolls and manuscripts that remained in the library were lost during this chaotic period. Yet the most tragic loss occurred in 642 CE, when the city fell to the forces of the Arab conqueror Amr ibn al-As. According to some accounts, upon capturing Alexandria, the conqueror ordered the burning of the remaining scrolls in the library. It is said that the vast collections of knowledge built over centuries were destroyed in a great conflagration that lasted for months. While the historical accuracy of this account is debated, it remains an enduring image of the final days of the library, a metaphor for the erasure of knowledge and the irreversible loss of the past. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria is not simply the loss of a physical building, but the erasure of a cultural legacy. The scrolls that were housed within its walls represented the accumulated knowledge of civilizations that had shaped the course of human history. Philosophical treatises, works of science and mathematics, plays, poems, and histories, these were all lost in the flames, never to be read again. The library was more than a place of books. It was a crucible of thought, a space where ideas could be exchanged, debated, and expanded upon. In the destruction of the library, humanity lost not only its past, but also the potential for future discovery. Ideas that could have revolutionized science, philosophy, and culture were consumed by the flames, and the intellectual progress of the ancient world was forever interrupted. This loss resonates deeply, not just for the knowledge itself, but for the promise of what could have been. What discoveries were never made, what ideas were lost forever. The potential for breakthroughs in medicine, astronomy, and engineering, the seeds of which might have been planted in the scrolls of Alexandria, were erased. Think of the theories on the movement of the stars, or the medical advancements that might have come from the study of anatomy. What if the texts of ancient mathematicians and scientists had been preserved and built upon? The Library of Alexandria was not just a place for preservation, it was a place for progression, a hub for the ongoing evolution of human thought. The loss of that hub marked a dark turning point, halting the momentum of knowledge for generations to come. The tragedy of the library's destruction lies not only in the loss of knowledge, but in the fact that it could have been avoided. There were many moments throughout history when the library could have been protected, when its treasures could have been safeguarded for future generations. But wars, politics, and the shifting tides of power conspired against it. In a world where ideas were not always valued, where knowledge was too often seen as a weapon or a prize to be claimed, the library's protection was never guaranteed. Its destruction, like so many other great losses throughout history, speaks to the fragility of human achievement, to the ever-present threat of obliteration that hangs over even the most magnificent endeavors. In the wake of its destruction, the library's loss became a symbol of what could have been. It became a cautionary tale, a reminder that knowledge once lost can never be fully recovered. The fragments of ancient texts that have survived the centuries, scattered across the world in museums and private collections, are only a small fraction of what was once contained within the library's walls. These remnants, though invaluable, cannot fully restore the breadth of what was lost. The burning of the Library of Alexandria stands as one of the great tragedies of history, a wound to human civilization that can never be healed. In the end, the loss of the Library of Alexandria is not just a lament for the past, but a reflection on the way we value knowledge today. It serves as a reminder of how fragile human progress is and how easily it can be erased. The flames that consumed the library did not just burn books. They burned the potential of the future. And as we look to our own libraries, our own repositories of knowledge, we must ask ourselves, how much are we willing to protect what we have? How much are we willing to ensure that the wisdom of the past is never again lost to the ravages of time and ignorance? The story of the Library of Alexandria is a somber one, a tragic tale of intellectual greatness cut short. But in its memory, perhaps there lies a call to preserve what we know, to protect the knowledge that we have worked so hard to build, and to ensure that it endures for future generations. For in the end, the loss of a single scroll, a single piece of knowledge, is a loss to all of humanity. The final days of the Library of Alexandria remind us that, in the vast sea of time, it is the preservation of wisdom that allows us to chart our course forward. The ancient Egyptians, with their deep and intricate understanding of life, death, and the afterlife, created one of the most mysterious and evocative texts in human history, the Book of the Dead. Known in ancient Egypt as the Coming Forth by Day, this sacred manuscript served as a guide for the souls of the deceased, leading them through the perilous journey to the afterlife. Yet beneath the surface of this guide, beyond the spells and rituals that promised safe passage, there lies a hidden layer of meaning, a cryptic language that has long intrigued and eluded those who have studied it. What exactly are the secrets contained within the Book of the Dead? And why were these truths veiled in such enigmatic symbols? At its core, the Book of the Dead was not just a manual for navigating the underworld. It was a map to spiritual transcendence, offering the deceased protection, guidance, and knowledge to navigate the dangers that awaited them after death. The book was a compilation of spells, hymns, and prayers, often personalized for the deceased, that would ensure their safe journey through the afterlife. It described the trials they would face, the gods they would encounter, and the correct rituals to perform in order to gain access to the eternal realm of the gods. For the ancient Egyptians, death was not an end but a continuation of life, and the Book of the Dead acted as both a protector and a guide through that continued existence. The text is filled with imagery that is both haunting and beautiful. The weighing of the heart before Osiris, the god of the afterlife. The journey through a labyrinthine underworld filled with obstacles and gods that demand answers. The serene yet eerie depictions of the deceased facing trials that test their purity and resolve. These images, though meant to offer protection, also seem to carry deeper meanings, perhaps too deep for the uninitiated to understand fully. The illustrations themselves are not merely decorative, they are imbued with esoteric knowledge. Each figure, each scene seems to hold a key to an understanding of the afterlife that is reserved only for the initiated, those who are able to decipher the symbols and unravel the truths concealed within the text. It is in this cryptic imagery and language that some scholars and spiritual seekers have found something far more profound than just a guide for the dead. The Book of the Dead, with its hidden symbols, has often been viewed as a spiritual puzzle, a code that encodes knowledge of the cosmos, of divinity, and of human existence. Some have even argued that the book holds secrets about the nature of consciousness, the afterlife, and the soul, truths that were deliberately veiled to prevent misuse or to protect certain sacred knowledge from outsiders. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Book of the Dead is its focus on the heart. In Egyptian belief, the heart was not just the organ that pumped blood, but the seat of the soul and the moral center of a person. The heart was weighed in the afterlife against the feather of Mayat, the goddess of truth and justice, to determine whether a soul would be allowed to continue on its journey to the afterlife or be devoured by Amit, the demoness of the underworld. This judgment was not only a measure of how well a person had lived, but also a reflection of their spiritual essence, their connection to divine truth. The heart, in the context of the Book of the Dead, is portrayed as the essence of a person's being, a point of intersection between the physical and spiritual realms. The cryptic nature of this idea hints at a deeper understanding of the soul, one that transcends the physical body and connects to a universal spiritual order. In many ways, the Book of the Dead functions as a repository of ancient knowledge, but not just of the afterlife. It also reflects the Egyptians' understanding of the forces that govern life itself, forces that were just as mysterious and unknowable as the afterlife they depicted. The gods of the Egyptian pantheon were not abstract deities. They represented primal forces that shaped both the material and spiritual worlds. Each deity was tied to a specific aspect of creation, and their roles were deeply intertwined with the balance of the cosmos. The rituals and incantations in the Book of the Dead were not merely meant to guide souls through the underworld. They were a means of engaging with these forces, of entering into a deeper relationship with the divine. And yet, despite the clarity with which the Egyptians approached these spiritual truths, the Book of the Dead is shrouded in layers of symbolic language that obscure its true meaning. The gods and trials are presented in such a way that only those with the proper understanding can hope to decipher them. This cryptic nature may have been intentional. Perhaps the ancient Egyptians sought to protect the most sacred knowledge of the cosmos from those who might misuse it. By embedding esoteric truths within symbolic language and imagery, they ensured that only those who were initiated into the mysteries of the religion could fully understand the teachings of the Book of the Dead. In this way, the text became not only a guide for the afterlife, but a spiritual cipher, a code that could only be unlocked by those with the proper understanding. This raises another question. What were the Egyptians trying to conceal? The very nature of the Book of the Dead suggests that there were deeper mysteries, truths hidden from the uninitiated. The fact that the book was so richly symbolic and layered with meaning implies that there were teachings within it that were not meant for all to know. These hidden secrets may not have been purely religious. They may have contained knowledge about the nature of the universe, the structure of reality, or even the soul itself. Ideas that went beyond the rituals of the afterlife and spoke to a higher, more universal truth. Whether these ideas were philosophical, scientific, or mystical is still a matter of speculation, but the hidden knowledge within the Book of the Dead has long been a subject of fascination. In the end, the Book of the Dead is more than a guide for the deceased. It is a mirror reflecting the spiritual beliefs and the profound mysteries that the ancient Egyptians sought to understand. The cryptic symbols and hidden messages invite us to contemplate the nature of existence, the afterlife, and our own relationship with the divine. As we stand before the pages of the Book of the Dead, we are not merely reading the words of a long-dead civilization. We are confronting the mysteries of life itself. The hidden secrets of the book, though obscured by time and symbolism, continue to whisper to us from the past, urging us to reflect on what lies beyond this life and to seek the knowledge that lies hidden within. The Great Sphinx of Giza is one of the most recognizable and awe-inspiring monuments in the world. It stands as a silent sentinel, watching over the vast desert sands, its immense form carved from limestone, its expression eternally calm. With the body of a lion and the head of a pharaoh, the Sphinx commands reverence and curiosity, a living enigma that has inspired generations of historians, archaeologists, and dreamers. But as much as we have uncovered about its physical presence, the Sphinx continues to resist full understanding. Its origin, purpose, and the very act of its creation remain subjects of debate, unsolved riddles that whisper across time like the winds that blow through the pyramids. The first and most obvious mystery surrounding the Sphinx is its construction. Conventional wisdom tells us that the Great Sphinx was built during the reign of Pharaoh Khafra circa 2558 to 2532 BCE as part of the Giza necropolis complex. According to this theory, the Sphinx was carved to represent the pharaoh himself, with the lion's body symbolizing strength and the royal head embodying the divine right to rule. Positioned in front of the pyramid attributed to Khafra, the Sphinx was meant to serve as a guardian, a sentinel who watched over the pharaoh's tomb and protected the sacred grounds. Yet, for all the certainty surrounding its official attribution to Khafra, there are those who question this widely accepted timeline. The Sphinx's weathered appearance, particularly the erosion of its body, suggests that it may be far older than traditionally believed. The deep grooves of water erosion on its body have led some geologists and researchers to suggest that the Sphinx could date back to as much as 10,000 years ago, long before the time of Khafra. This theory posits that the monument may have been constructed by a civilization lost to time, one whose knowledge and achievements have been swallowed by the desert. If this is the case, the Sphinx would not be a testament to Khafra's reign, but to a much earlier epoch, one that challenges our entire understanding of ancient Egypt. If the Sphinx is indeed older than the Old Kingdom, then who built it? And why was it constructed with such deliberate precision and scale? Was it a work of early Egyptians who, even at that time, were masters of stone and symbol? Or was it a legacy of an earlier, unknown civilization, one that left no trace but for this monumental stone figure? The idea that the Sphinx could predate the Egyptians by thousands of years opens the door to a host of tantalizing possibilities. Ancient knowledge lost to history, advanced techniques forgotten, and a mystery that only deepens the more we learn. The placement of the Sphinx itself also raises questions. Its orientation, facing due east, aligns with the rising sun, which was of great significance in Egyptian cosmology. The Egyptians worshipped the sun god Ra, and the Sphinx's gaze toward the sun could symbolize the divine protector of the pharaoh. However, the Sphinx's location, surrounded by the vast desert and positioned in such a way that it appears to face the distant horizon, suggests that it might have served a purpose beyond simply marking the entrance to Khafra's pyramid complex. Perhaps it was a link between heaven and earth, a bridge between the realm of the living and the divine, a protector of the sacred. But then, what of its face? Carved in the likeness of the pharaoh, it carries the regal features of a ruler, a symbol of divine power immortalized in stone. But it is an image that has been altered over time. The nose, for instance, is missing, perhaps vandalized or eroded by centuries of wind and rain. Its eyes, once full of life, are now hollow. These physical changes raise further questions. Was the Sphinx intended to be an eternal representation of the king? Or was it a manifestation of something deeper? Something eternal and unknowable beyond human rulers and beyond human time? The more we examine the Sphinx, the more it becomes clear that it is more than just a monument. It is a repository of mystery, a silent sentinel guarding secrets that have yet to be fully revealed. The Sphinx, whether built by the ancient Egyptians or by some other long-lost civilization, stands as a symbol of something beyond our comprehension. It watches over the desert sands, its gaze unblinking, offering no answers, only more questions. Beneath the immense form of the Great Sphinx lies an even greater mystery. The possibility of hidden chambers, rooms filled with secrets, relics, and knowledge waiting to be discovered. Over the years, many have speculated about the existence of these hidden spaces, theorizing that the Sphinx might not just be a monumental statue, but a vast subterranean complex. And while modern archaeology has uncovered a great deal about the Sphinx's external structure, what remains beneath the surface is still largely unknown. In the early 1990s, seismic surveys and ground-penetrating radar scans conducted by various teams suggested the presence of voids beneath the Sphinx. These anomalies hinted at the possibility of secret chambers, perhaps leading to a network of tunnels or a hidden burial chamber. Some researchers have even suggested that the chambers could contain not only physical treasures, but the lost knowledge of the ancients, scrolls, artifacts, and texts that have been buried for millennia, waiting for someone to uncover them. This speculation fuels the imagination, raising the possibility that beneath the Sphinx could lie the final, ultimate secrets of ancient Egypt, knowledge that has been intentionally hidden away, either to protect it from prying eyes or to safeguard it for those deemed worthy to unlock its mysteries. What might these chambers contain? Perhaps the lost archives of an unknown civilization, preserved beneath the Sphinx to protect them from the ravages of time. Perhaps the final resting place of an ancient ruler, hidden away to shield them from grave robbers or prying conquerors. Or perhaps, in a more mystical sense, these hidden chambers could contain sacred knowledge, wisdom that was too powerful, too dangerous to be shared with the uninitiated. The contrast between the visible monument of the Sphinx and the secrets it may hide beneath the earth is striking. What we see is awe-inspiring, a colossal statue, its lion's body and human head standing resolute against the desert winds. But what we do not see, what lies beneath, is where the true mystery lies. The Sphinx has always been more than just a monument. It is a puzzle, a riddle wrapped in stone, and beneath its surface lies the potential to unlock secrets that could change our understanding of history itself. Each year, new excavations and scans continue to offer tantalizing glimpses into what may be hidden below. Yet the deeper we look, the more elusive the answers become. Are we meant to uncover these secrets, or are they destined to remain buried, a reminder of the limits of human knowledge? The lost chambers of the Sphinx remain one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world, and with each new discovery, the legend of the Sphinx grows ever more enigmatic. The Sphinx is not merely a monument of stone. It is a monument surrounded by legends, and none more chilling than the curse that seems to hang over it. Throughout history, the Sphinx has been linked to tales of mysterious deaths, inexplicable misfortunes, and curses that have struck those who dared to search for its secrets. For centuries, people have attempted to unearth the hidden knowledge beneath the Sphinx, but those who have ventured too far or too boldly have often met tragic ends. One of the earliest tales of misfortune associated with the Sphinx dates back to the 19th century, when a French expedition attempted to excavate the area around the monument. The team, under the leadership of Auguste Mariette, was plagued by a series of strange accidents and setbacks. Several members of the team fell ill or met untimely deaths, and the excavation work was abruptly halted. Whispers spread among the locals that the Sphinx was guarding its secrets too fiercely, and that those who sought to uncover them would pay a heavy price. In more recent times, there have been reports of mysterious occurrences surrounding the Sphinx's restoration projects. Workers have claimed to feel a strange, oppressive presence while working near the monument, and some have even reported hearing unsettling whispers on the wind. Several individuals involved in restoration efforts have also faced strange accidents, leading some to speculate that the Sphinx's curse is still very much alive, waiting for those who dare to disturb its slumber. These stories of misfortune are not just the product of superstition. They tap into a deeper belief that ancient Egypt's monuments were imbued with a certain mystical power, one that was meant to protect the sacred knowledge they housed. The Sphinx, as a guardian of the past, may very well carry with it a curse designed to keep its deepest secrets from being uncovered. Whether it is the work of vengeful spirits, protective deities, or a force beyond human comprehension, the curse of the Sphinx persists as one of the most chilling aspects of its legend. As we stand before the great Sphinx today, the air heavy with the weight of history, we cannot help but wonder, what price must we pay to unlock the secrets it guards? The Sphinx, ever silent and ever watchful, continues to guard its mysteries, reminding us that some forces, no matter how ancient, are not to be tampered with. The curse of the Sphinx is not just a warning. It is a reminder that some secrets, no matter how tantalizing, may be better left undisturbed. The history of ancient Egypt is marked by its grand monuments, divine kings, and towering pyramids. Yet woven into the fabric of this great civilization, there exists a quieter, more unsettling thread: the mystery of the vanished pharaohs. These were rulers whose names, once etched in stone and ink, faded into obscurity, their lives and deaths buried beneath the sands of time. Some vanished without a trace, while others were erased from the official record, their legacies left incomplete. What happened to these powerful figures? Why did they disappear, and what truths lie hidden in their absence? Among the most enigmatic of these disappeared figures is Pharaoh Akhenaten, the heretic king who radically shifted Egypt's religious practices. Akhenaten is remembered for abandoning the traditional pantheon of gods in favor of Aten, the sun disk, and for establishing a new capital at Amarna. Yet despite his revolutionary reign, Akhenaten's death remains shrouded in mystery. His successor, the young Tutankhamun, would eventually restore the old gods, and Akhenaten's legacy would be largely condemned. The strange thing, however, is not just Akhenaten's radical religious reform, but his sudden disappearance from the historical record after his death. There is no clear account of his demise, nor a solid explanation for the rapid abandonment of his reforms. Did he die a natural death, or was his end the result of political intrigue? The swift erasure of his name from monuments and temples suggests that the establishment may have deliberately sought to suppress his legacy, but the exact reasons remain speculative. The story of Akhenaten's disappearance is but one example of the many erased pharaohs throughout Egypt's history. Perhaps even more puzzling is the case of Queen Nefertiti, Akhenaten's queen, whose fate remains one of history's most tantalizing mysteries. The famous bust of Nefertiti, with its regal beauty and serene expression, has made her one of the most iconic figures of ancient Egypt. Yet despite her prominence during her husband's reign, she seemingly vanishes from the historical record midway through his rule. No definitive evidence has ever been found to explain her disappearance. Some believe that she may have died, while others suggest that she may have assumed a male role, ruling as a co-regent under a different name after Akhenaten's death. Still, no burial tomb has ever been definitively linked to her, and the search for Nefertiti's final resting place continues to captivate archaeologists and historians. Another notable example is the strange case of the so-called phantom pharaohs, rulers who appear briefly in historical records but whose existence is later obscured, either by intentional erasure or the loss of records. One such figure is Pharaoh Smenkhkare, who briefly shared the throne with Akhenaten and whose name appears on some of the monuments of the period. Yet Smenkhkar's reign is so poorly documented that it almost feels as though he never existed. There are no clear records of his death, and the exact details of his time on the throne remain a mystery. Some speculate that he may have been Akhenaten's successor, or even his co-regent, but the lack of evidence leaves his story incomplete. What becomes evident in the study of these vanished pharaohs is that their disappearances were not mere accidents of history. In many cases, their names were deliberately erased, their tombs lost or destroyed, and their legacies buried in the sands of time. Why? The reasons behind these historical erasures are manifold. Political intrigue, religious shifts, and power struggles may have played a role in the decision to erase these figures from history. In the case of Akhenaten, the swift reversal of his religious reforms and the restoration of Egypt's traditional polytheistic worship may have been an attempt to suppress the memory of a ruler who had challenged the established order. Similarly, Nefertiti's disappearance could have been politically motivated, her memory obscured either to protect the power of her lineage or to bury the influence of a woman who had once held sway over Egypt's most powerful ruler. The mystery of these vanished pharaohs is a haunting one, as it speaks not only to the fragility of historical records, but to the forces that shape how we remember the past. The erasure of these powerful figures feels like a deliberate act, an attempt to control the narrative of history. But the shadows they left behind raise troubling questions. What were they hiding? And what truths did these pharaohs possess that were so dangerous, so disruptive that they had to be buried beneath the sands of time? Queen Nefertiti, with her elegant features immortalized in the famous bust that has come to symbolize the grandeur of ancient Egypt, remains one of the most enigmatic figures of antiquity. Her beauty, her political role as the wife of the radical pharaoh Akhenaten, and her mysterious disappearance from the historical record have fascinated historians, archaeologists, and the general public for centuries. Yet despite her fame, the truth about Nefertiti's life and death remains elusive, clouded in layers of speculation and uncertainty. Nefertiti's role during her husband's reign was undeniably powerful. She was not just the queen, she was a key political figure, possibly even ruling in her own right. The couple's religious revolution, centered around the worship of Aten, the sun disk, was one of the most radical in Egyptian history, and Nefertiti played a central role in the promotion of this new faith. Some even speculate that she might have been a co-regent with Akhenaten, sharing power as the ruler of Egypt. Evidence of her prominence can be found in the extensive depictions of her on the walls of Amarna, Akhenaten's new capital, where she is shown with equal authority as her husband, participating in religious ceremonies and appearing in royal iconography. However, by the end of Akhenaten's reign, Nefertiti disappears from historical records. There is no definitive account of her death or her subsequent role in the aftermath of Akhenaten's reforms. Some scholars have speculated that she died during the early years of Akhenaten's reign, but the absence of any burial tomb or inscription associated with her death leaves this theory inconclusive. Other theories suggest that Nefertiti may have assumed a male identity and ruled Egypt as Pharaoh Smenkhkare, either as a co-regent with Akhenaten or as his successor. If this is true, it would suggest a fascinating shift in Egyptian politics and gender roles, but once again, no concrete evidence exists to confirm such a claim. The absence of Nefertiti's body has only fueled the mystery surrounding her. While the tomb of her husband, Akhenaten, remains elusive, it is Nefertiti's final resting place that has become one of the most coveted archaeological quests of modern times. In recent years, some researchers have proposed that Nefertiti's tomb might lie hidden behind the walls of King Tutankhamun's tomb in the Valley of the Kings. But this theory remains unproven. If her tomb were ever discovered, it could provide the final answers to the questions about her disappearance. But for now, Nefertiti, remains an elusive figure in Egyptian history. The mystery of Nefertiti, her disappearance, and the potential political intrigue surrounding her life evoke a sense of melancholy. Her beauty and power were once celebrated, but time and politics have cast a long shadow over her legacy. The questions about her true fate reflect a deeper sadness, the loss of an extraordinary woman who played a central role in one of Egypt's most transformative periods. Even as we continue to search for the answers, we cannot help but wonder. How many other stories of powerful women were lost to time, their legacies buried beneath the sands of history? The history of ancient Egypt is not only shaped by the pharaohs who ruled, but by the pharaohs who were erased. These phantom pharaohs are the rulers whose names were deliberately omitted from the official records, whose reigns were either short-lived or marred by political upheaval. Among the most mysterious of these figures is Pharaoh Smenkhkare, a co-regent of Akhenaten whose reign was so poorly documented that it feels as though he never existed. Smenkhkare appears only briefly in the historical records, yet the lack of clarity about his identity and his role in the Amarna period is striking. Some scholars believe that Smenkhkare may have been Akhenaten's son or even his co-regent during the latter years of Akhenaten's reign, but no definitive evidence confirms his reign or his relationship to Akhenaten. Theories abound, with some suggesting that Smenkhkare might have been a pharaoh who briefly ruled after Akhenaten's death, but the evidence remains scant. The deliberate erasure of rulers like Smenkhkare speaks to the fragility of history itself. Why were some pharaohs deemed unworthy of remembrance? What did they do or fail to do that led to their removal from the annals of history? The erasure of these rulers often points to political motivations, power struggles, religious reforms, and rivalries between factions in the court. In the case of the Amarna period, the suppression of Akhenaten's religious revolution and the subsequent attempts to restore the old gods may have led to the deliberate erasure of pharaohs like Smenkhkare, whose brief rule did not fit into the narrative that the priests and ruling class wanted to preserve. The erasure of these phantom pharaohs leaves us with the haunting sense that history is not always a faithful record of the past. It is often a carefully crafted narrative shaped by those in power to suit their own agendas. In the case of the vanished rulers, the deliberate omission of their names from history is not just an absence. It is a rewriting of the past, an attempt to erase the traces of rulers who failed to secure their place in Egypt's grand legacy. Yet despite their erasure, the phantom pharaohs continue to haunt the margins of history, their names whispered in the shadows, their reigns lost to time, their legacies buried beneath layers of secrecy. In the ancient world, death was not an end, but a transition, a journey from the physical world into the realm of eternity. Nowhere is this belief more powerfully embodied than in ancient Egypt, where the process of mummification was not simply a means of preserving the body, but an intricate ritual tied to the sacred and eternal. The Egyptians believed that for a person to live on in the afterlife, their body must be carefully preserved, protected from decay, and kept intact so that the soul could recognize it and return to it in the next world. The mummies, with their dried flesh and bandaged forms, were not just lifeless corpses but vessels of a spiritual journey that transcended time. Mummification was a complex, multi-step process that involved the removal of internal organs, desiccation of the body with natron salts, and the wrapping of the body in linen bandages. But this was more than just a physical preservation. It was a sacred art, grounded in religious belief and steeped in symbolism. The heart, believed to be the seat of the soul, was often preserved, while the brain, thought to be irrelevant to the afterlife, was discarded. The organs were carefully placed in canopic jars, each guarded by a protective deity to ensure their safety for the deceased's journey. What is truly striking about the mummification process is the reverence that permeated every step. The priests and embalmers who performed the ritual were not merely conducting a task of physical preservation, they were engaging in a sacred act. The body was treated with the utmost care, for it was the vehicle that would carry the soul, or K, into the afterlife. The wrapping of the body was done with ritualistic precision, as each layer of linen was not only a physical barrier to decay but a spiritual protection against the forces that could interfere with the soul's journey. Even the tomb itself was designed to be a final sanctuary, filled with items to help the deceased in their afterlife, including food, treasures, and even texts like the Book of the Dead to guide the soul. The very act of preserving the body in such a meticulous and sacred manner speaks to the ancient Egyptians' understanding of life and death. For them, the physical form was not disposable. It was essential to the soul's continued existence. Mummification was their way of ensuring that the person, no matter how powerful or humble, would be able to endure forever, locked in a state of perpetual existence, protected from decay. But as we look at the mummies today, preserved for thousands of years, there is an eerie quality to them, as though they are not fully of this world or the next. They exist in a kind of limbo, neither living nor truly dead, and they stir a deep unease, a reminder of the ancient Egyptians' belief that death was not an end, but an ongoing process. The mummies themselves, with their almost lifeless eyes and taut, dry skin, evoke a sense of the uncanny. There is something deeply human about them, but also something distant, almost alien. They seem to exist on the boundary between two worlds, caught in an eternal sleep. And in that sleep, they are guardians of a secret, of what it means to live forever and of the mysteries that lie beyond the mortal realm. What were these rituals truly trying to preserve beyond the physical body? Was it simply the soul, or was it something more, an essence, a divine spark that transcends even death itself? The question lingers in the stillness of the tombs, unanswered, a mystery hidden behind the veil of time. For centuries, the mummies of ancient Egypt have been the subject of fascination, awe, and fear. The eerie phenomenon of the mummy's curse, the belief that those who disturb the tombs of the ancient dead will suffer tragic consequences, has haunted the imaginations of countless individuals, particularly in the wake of the discovery of King Tutankhamun's tomb. The idea that mummies hold a supernatural power capable of causing death, illness, or misfortune continues to captivate people today. But is the curse a mere superstition? A myth concocted by sensationalism? Or is there something darker at work, something tied to the ancient rituals of mummification itself? The most famous and widely publicized example of the mummy's curse came with the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922. Led by the British archaeologist Howard Carter, the excavation unearthed one of the most significant and well-preserved tombs in Egyptian history. The discovery was a monumental achievement, but it was soon followed by a series of unexplained deaths and misfortunes among those connected to the expedition. Lord Carnarvon, who had financed the excavation, died suddenly after being bitten by a mosquito, leading to widespread speculation that the curse had claimed its first victim. Other members of the team, including those involved in the preparation of the tomb, also met untimely and mysterious ends. These deaths, along with a series of accidents and illnesses, fed the belief that the curse was real, that those who had violated the sacred resting place of the pharaoh would be doomed. The idea of the mummy's curse was not limited to Tutankhamun. Throughout history, there have been countless stories of tombs being disturbed, and the subsequent misfortune that befell the individuals involved. Some believe that the curse is not merely a superstition but a result of the ancient Egyptian belief that disturbing the dead was a grave offense. In their worldview, the tomb was a sacred space that housed not only the body but also the soul, and to violate that space was to invite divine retribution. The curse, in this sense, might have been seen as a form of spiritual protection, a way to preserve the sanctity of the deceased and keep those with ill intentions away. Yet skepticism abounds. Many argue that the so-called curse is simply a product of coincidence and the sensationalism that surrounded Egyptology in the early 20th century. With the discovery of a tomb as significant as Tutankhamun's, it was inevitable that media outlets would capitalize on the mystery and allure of ancient Egypt. The deaths that followed the excavation were tragic but could be attributed to natural causes or the harsh conditions of the time, rather than to any supernatural force. After all, Egypt was a land of disease, hardship, and danger, and the likelihood of illnesses or accidents was high. Despite these explanations, the mummy's curse persists in popular imagination, fueled by the strange events that often seem to surround mummies and tombs. Whether it is superstition, coincidence, or something more, there is an unsettling feeling that persists whenever ancient tombs are uncovered. What are we truly disturbing when we unearth the bodies of the dead? Is there something more powerful than we can understand embedded in the rituals of mummification? Something that transcends mere superstition and taps into deeper, more primal forces? The idea that the curse might be real, that the dead might have a voice capable of reaching across time, gives the practice of mummification a chilling and mysterious quality. What ancient knowledge, what dark forces are we uncovering when we disturb the eternal sleep of the mummies? The tombs of Egypt are not merely resting places, they are vast libraries of symbolism, sacred knowledge, and hidden messages. The walls of these tombs, with their intricate hieroglyphic inscriptions and vivid paintings, tell stories not just of the lives of the pharaohs but of their spiritual beliefs, their understanding of the afterlife, and their relationship with the divine. These symbols were not just decorative, they were coded messages, designed to guide the deceased on their journey to the afterlife and to protect them from the dangers they might face. But beyond these immediate functions, these symbols may contain much more. Secrets that speak to a deeper understanding of the universe. Knowledge that has been passed down through the ages in an almost cryptic form. The hieroglyphs found in the tombs are far more than a language. They are a system of profound spiritual communication. They tell of the pharaoh's divine nature, his communion with the gods, and his passage through the afterlife. But these symbols are also layered with deeper meanings. In some cases, the hieroglyphs form intricate codes, hidden messages meant only for those with the knowledge to decipher them. It is possible that these symbols contain knowledge that was not meant for the public, knowledge that was reserved for the elite few who understood the mysteries of the cosmos. In this sense, the tombs of Egypt function not just as memorials to the dead but as repositories of esoteric wisdom, waiting to be unlocked by those who can decipher the sacred symbols. What secrets might these tombs still hold? Some believe that the symbols in the tombs contain not only religious truths, but also scientific and philosophical knowledge that the Egyptians possessed long before other civilizations. There are theories that suggest the Egyptians understood advanced concepts in geometry, astronomy, and medicine, knowledge that was encoded in the symbols and imagery found within the tombs. If these messages were ever fully deciphered, they might reveal a deeper, more ancient understanding of the world, one that has been obscured by time, but that still holds the potential to transform our understanding of history and the nature of the cosmos. The cryptic messages in the tombs beckon us, drawing us toward a mystery that has yet to be fully solved. Each symbol, each hieroglyph contains the potential for revelation, a key to unlocking the ancient wisdom that has been hidden away for millennia. And yet, as we stand before these sacred texts, we are left with more questions than answers. What truths remain concealed behind the walls of the tombs? What knowledge was the pharaohs so determined to protect, and what must we learn to unlock the secrets they left behind? The tombs of Egypt are not just places of death, they are sanctuaries of knowledge, waiting for those with the courage and understanding to uncover their mysteries. In the shimmering golden sands of Egypt lies a tradition of transformation that transcends the physical realm, reaching deep into the very soul of the ancient Egyptians. Egyptian alchemy, far more than the pursuit of material wealth or gold, was a mystical and sacred practice, closely tied to the gods and the pursuit of transcendence. For the ancient Egyptians, alchemy was not just a means of turning base metals into gold, it was a quest for understanding the divine processes of creation and transformation, a way of attaining immortality and spiritual enlightenment. At the heart of Egyptian alchemy was the concept of Khnum, the divine sculptor who shaped both the physical world and the human soul. This idea of transformation, both physical and spiritual, permeated Egyptian thought and alchemical practices. Alchemists in Egypt believed that by understanding the secrets of nature, by mastering the hidden forces that govern the world, they could transform not only metals, but themselves. The idea that base materials could be transmuted into precious ones reflected a deeper philosophical understanding of the process of spiritual evolution, in which the mundane and the corrupt could be purified and made divine. One of the most intriguing aspects of Egyptian alchemy was its connection to the gods. In Egyptian mythology, the gods were not just abstract beings, but the very architects of creation, responsible for the formation of the cosmos, the elements, and even the cycles of life and death. Alchemists sought to tap into this divine power, attempting to mirror the gods' ability to shape and transform the world around them. The pursuit of alchemy, therefore, was also a search for a deeper understanding of the divine, a way to unlock the hidden knowledge that would allow one to become more godlike in nature. The ancient Egyptians left behind a wealth of alchemical texts, many of which have survived only in fragments or through later translations. These texts are filled with references to magical substances, formulas, and techniques that were believed to unlock the secrets of the universe. Alchemists spoke of transforming the Jed, the sacred pillar of life and stability, and of working with the Ba and Ke, the spiritual components of the soul, to achieve unity with the divine. These texts reveal a deep understanding of the metaphysical, where alchemy was not simply a material process, but a sacred journey towards spiritual enlightenment and unity with the gods. The practice of alchemy was also intertwined with the Egyptian belief in Ma'at, the concept of cosmic order and balance. Just as alchemists sought to transmute base materials into gold, they also sought to align themselves with the order of the universe. The transformation of the self, purifying the soul, harmonizing with the divine, and achieving immortality was just as important as the transformation of physical substances. Alchemists, through their work, hoped to achieve a state of perfection and equilibrium, reflecting the divine order that governed the universe. In contemplating Egyptian alchemy, we are drawn into a world where material and spiritual realms converge. The pursuit of transformation was not just about gold or wealth, but about attaining a deeper connection with the divine. The mysteries behind Egyptian alchemical texts, hidden in symbols and sacred words, invite us to ponder the nature of transformation itself. Was it truly possible for the alchemist to achieve the divine, to transcend death and become one with the gods? The answers remain elusive, locked away in the fragments of ancient texts and in the sacred practices of a civilization that believed in the profound power of alchemy, not just to transform metals but to elevate the soul. Among the most legendary and sought-after symbols of alchemical tradition is the philosopher's stone. a mythical substance believed to hold the key to transforming any base metal into gold and to granting immortality. The myth of the Philosopher's Stone has endured through time, evolving and finding its way into Western alchemical traditions. But its roots can be traced back to the alchemical practices of ancient Egypt. The Egyptians were among the first to seek not only the power to transmute physical materials, but to unlock the secrets to immortality, a quest that mirrored the mythical promise of the Philosopher's Stone. In Egyptian alchemy, the pursuit of transformation was not confined to the physical realm. The idea that a substance could turn ordinary metal into gold mirrored the deeper desire to transform the self, to transcend the limitations of the body, and to achieve immortality. Just as base metals could be purified and elevated into gold, the soul could be purified through spiritual practices and rituals, achieving a divine and immortal state. The idea of the Philosopher's Stone in Egyptian alchemy, then, was not just a material pursuit, it was a symbol of the soul's journey toward perfection, enlightenment, and eternal life. But what was the Philosopher's Stone in the context of Egyptian belief? Was it a tangible substance? A sacred compound that could be synthesized in a laboratory of the gods? Or was it an esoteric concept, a mystical key to unlock the divine mysteries that lay beyond the mortal realm? The texts of ancient Egypt offer no clear answer, but the search for this mystical substance speaks to the Egyptians' obsession with the divine and their understanding of alchemy as both a material and spiritual process. It is possible that the Philosopher's Stone was more metaphorical than physical, representing the goal of transcending the material world and entering into an eternal divine existence. The notion of a stone that could confer immortality or unlimited power reflects the deep-seated belief that there was a hidden, divine knowledge accessible only to the initiated. The Philosopher's Stone in this sense might represent the ultimate goal of alchemy, the union of the physical and spiritual worlds, the ability to transform oneself and the world around them. It is no wonder that the myth of the Philosopher's Stone has persisted through the ages, transcending cultures and epochs as a symbol of ultimate knowledge and power. Whether it was ever physically real or simply a mythic representation of the divine quest for transcendence, the Philosopher's Stone remains a powerful emblem of the search for immortality and enlightenment. As we contemplate the ancient Egyptians' pursuit of this mythical substance, we are drawn into a world where the boundaries between science, magic, and spirituality blur. In the quest for transformation, the Egyptians sought not only to change the physical world, but to elevate the soul to a divine state. The Philosopher's Stone, real or imagined, was the key to unlocking this power, a power that continues to captivate the human imagination. Was it a substance, a ritual, or a deeper truth about the nature of existence? The answer may remain elusive, but the search for the Philosopher's Stone and for immortality continues to beckon, a timeless quest that transcends both time and space. In ancient Egyptian mythology, the gods were often depicted as eternal beings, their lives extending beyond the limits of human time. They were immortal, their powers far beyond those of mere mortals. But what was it that granted them this extraordinary gift of eternal life? Many believe that it was the elixir of life, a substance imbued with the power to grant immortality, consumed by the gods themselves. The idea of the elixir of life was not just a myth, it was a key element of Egyptian alchemical thought, intertwined with the gods' power to transcend death. The elixir of life was said to be a divine substance that could heal, restore, and grant eternal life to those who consumed it. The gods, in their immortal form, were believed to drink this elixir, which gave them their godlike powers and ensured that they remained untouched by the ravages of time. The ancient Egyptians believed that such an elixir might also be available to humans, though it was reserved for the divine or for those who had attained the highest levels of spiritual purity. To drink the elixir was to become one with the gods, to transcend the limitations of the mortal body and to achieve eternal life. This mythical substance is central to many Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife. It represents not just a physical transformation, but a spiritual one, where the soul transcends death and becomes eternal. In some versions of Egyptian mythology, the elixir was said to be created by the gods from the waters of the Nile, which were sacred and life-giving. Others believed that it was produced through alchemical means using divine formulas that could only be understood by the initiated. Whether the elixir was a tangible substance or a metaphor for spiritual enlightenment remains unclear, but its symbolism resonates deeply within Egyptian thought. The idea of immortality, however, raises troubling questions. What is the price of eternal life? Is it worth the sacrifice of the physical body and the world as we know it? The gods, with their immortality, were distant and removed from the human experience. They existed in a world beyond time, untouched by the suffering and struggles of mortal life. But what would it mean for humans to attain such immortality? Would it strip away the very essence of what it means to be human? The pursuit of the elixir of life is enticing, but also fraught with uncertainty and unease. The desire for eternal life speaks to a deep yearning for transcendence, but it also reminds us of the natural limits that define our existence. In the end, the elixir of life remains one of the most compelling and mysterious aspects of Egyptian mythology. Did the gods truly possess such a substance, or was it merely a symbol of their divine power and eternal nature? The search for immortality, whether through alchemy, the elixir, or other means, is a theme that continues to resonate with humanity. The gods' possession of the elixir of life reminds us of our own mortality and of the desire to unlock the secrets of life and death. Whether or not the elixir ever truly existed, its legend remains a haunting reminder of the eternal human quest for transcendence. The ancient Egyptians believed that their pharaohs were not mere mortals, but living gods on earth, divine beings who bridged the gap between the heavens and humanity. The pharaoh was not only the ruler of Egypt, but also the intermediary between the gods and the people, carrying out the divine will and ensuring that order or Mat prevailed in the land. The status of the pharaoh as a god was enshrined in the very fabric of Egyptian society, and his divine nature was reflected in every aspect of his rule, from the grand monuments he built to the rituals he performed. The pharaoh was the earthly embodiment of Horus, the god of the sky, whose divine power protected Egypt and ensured the prosperity of the land. The belief in the pharaoh's divinity was more than just symbolic. It was deeply ingrained in the culture and daily life of the Egyptians. To question the pharaoh's divine status was to question the gods themselves, an act of cosmic rebellion that could bring about disorder and chaos. The idea of the pharaoh as a god on earth was not merely a political tool. It was a religious belief, one that connected the ruler to the celestial order and made him the focal point of Egyptian worship. Temples dedicated to the gods also honored the pharaoh as a divine figure, and royal decrees were often framed as commands issued by the gods themselves. But while the idealized belief in the divine nature of the pharaohs was central to the Egyptian worldview, the reality of their power was often far more complex and at times terrifying. The pharaohs wielded immense political, military, and religious influence, and their rule was both sacred and absolute. The construction of monumental temples, the vast wealth they commanded, and the religious rituals they performed were all expressions of the pharaoh's connection to the divine, but they also reinforced his authority and control over his people. Pharaohs could claim divine ancestry, but they also ruled with the power of force, with armies at their command and a network of officials who enforced their will. The idea of the pharaoh as a living god was a paradox. The rulers were seen as divinely ordained, yet they were also human beings who struggled with the same issues as any mortal ruler: power struggles, military conflicts, and dynastic succession. Pharaohs, though sacred, were not immune to human frailty. Many were assassinated, overthrown, or fell victim to political intrigue. Their divine status was, in many ways, a carefully constructed myth that allowed them to consolidate power. But it was a myth that was as fragile as it was powerful. The pharaohs were often depicted as divine beings, their faces glorified in sculptures, their names immortalized in monumental inscriptions. Yet the truth behind their divinity was always more elusive. Were they truly gods? Or were they men who wielded the power of gods to maintain their rule? The creeping unease that accompanies the pharaoh's divinity arises from this very tension. They were worshipped as gods, but they were also capable of great cruelty and oppression. The pharaoh's divine power was simultaneously awe-inspiring and terrifying, their influence extending over the heavens and the earth, and their control over the lives of their people absolute. The mystery of the divine pharaohs raises questions that continue to haunt historians and archaeologists. How much of their divinity was genuine belief, and how much was carefully constructed to maintain power? Were the pharaohs truly divine beings, or were they simply extraordinary rulers who used religion as a means of controlling their people? The grandeur of their monuments and the legacy of their reigns leave us in awe, but there is also a lingering sense that their power, both sacred and terrifying, was founded on a belief that blurred the line between God and man. In ancient Egyptian mythology, the gods were not distant, ethereal beings removed from the world of mortals. Instead, they were gods who walked among humans, interacted with them, and shaped their destinies. The Egyptians believed that gods such as Osiris, Ra, and Anubis were not only divine forces governing the cosmos, but also beings who had lived on Earth in human form at different points in time. The myths surrounding these gods suggest that they were not just symbols of abstract concepts, but real figures. Figures who may have left traces of their existence in the human world. Osiris, for example, was the god of the afterlife, but he was also believed to have been a mortal king who ruled over Egypt before his death and resurrection. The story of Osiris, his murder by his brother Set, and his subsequent resurrection by his wife Isis, was a foundational myth in Egyptian religion, symbolizing themes of death, rebirth, and the eternal cycle of life. But Osiris' connection to humanity was not purely mythical. Many believed that Osiris, as a mortal king, had walked among them, teaching the people the ways of civilization, and that his resurrection ensured the continuity of life. This blending of divine and human, of myth and reality, created a world where the gods were not far removed from human experience. They were part of it, shaping the world and the lives of those who lived within it. Ra, the sun god, was similarly thought to have lived as a mortal, though in a more symbolic way. Ra was said to have risen from the primeval waters of Nun and created the world through his divine power. But over time, he was also believed to have taken human form, ruling as a king and guiding the people of Egypt. Ra's daily journey across the sky in his solar bark was not just a myth, it was a symbol of his ongoing presence in the world. The Egyptians believed that Ra, though a god, had a tangible influence on their lives, shaping the day and night, bringing life to the earth, and ensuring the continuation of cosmic order. The idea that gods like Osiris and Ra lived in human form challenges the boundary between the divine and the mortal. Were these gods truly divine, or were they mortal rulers whose extraordinary power and influence were later mythologized by their followers? The presence of the gods on earth was not just symbolic, it was deeply intertwined with the daily life of the Egyptians. Temples, rituals, and festivals all celebrated the gods' ongoing presence, suggesting that the Egyptians saw their gods not just as celestial beings, but as entities whose influence pervaded every aspect of life. As we reflect on the possibility that these gods may have once walked among us, we are left with a sense of the surreal, of a world where the line between the divine and the mortal is blurred. The Egyptians, through their stories and rituals, invited humans to believe that the gods were not only transcendent beings, but active participants in the world, a world where the supernatural and the human were one. The traces of these gods, if they indeed existed in human form, remain scattered throughout Egypt's temples and monuments, waiting for us to decipher their meanings and to understand the nature of their presence in the human world. The gods of ancient Egypt were once the focal point of a civilization that spanned millennia. But over time, the divine pantheon began to shift and fade. Some gods, once central to the Egyptian worldview, were gradually abandoned, forgotten, or replaced by others. This decline of belief in certain gods raises questions about the fragility of faith and the transient nature of power, even divine power. One of the most striking examples of this decline is the god Amun, once the king of the gods during the New Kingdom. Amun was revered as the creator god and the patron deity of Thebes, his influence extending over nearly every aspect of Egyptian life. Yet with the rise of the worship of Aten during the reign of Akhenaten, Amun's power diminished. Akhenaten, in his radical religious reforms, replaced Amun with the worship of Aten, the sun disk, effectively diminishing the role of many traditional gods. Though the return to Amun's worship came after Akhenaten's death, the shift in religious practice had already begun to destabilize the once unshakable belief in the Egyptian gods. Similarly, other gods, such as Hathor, the goddess of love and motherhood, or Ptah, the god of creation and craftsmanship, were once highly revered but gradually lost their prominence as political and religious shifts took place. Some gods were relegated to lesser roles while others were absorbed into new deities. This process of decline and adaptation speaks to the way in which belief systems are shaped not only by spiritual or mythological concerns, but by the shifting sands of political power and cultural change. The abandonment of certain gods raises a philosophical question. What happens when belief in the divine falters? When a god falls out of favor, does that god lose its power, or does it simply transform into something else, lingering in the stories and symbols of the past? The loss of belief in these gods is a reminder of the fragility of faith, of how even the most enduring powers can fade over time. Yet despite this decline, the legacy of Egypt's gods continues to resonate in the culture, art, and rituals of the civilization they once ruled. Their stories, though no longer worshipped with the same fervor, remain deeply embedded in the consciousness of the people. Perhaps the true immortality of these gods lies not in their continued worship, but in the cultural and spiritual impact they left behind, a testament to the lasting power of myth, even when the gods themselves fall into silence. As we reflect on the fall of the gods, we are reminded of the fleeting nature of belief and the transient nature of power. The gods who once ruled the skies and earth are now echoes of the past, their stories passed down through millennia. The question remains, were these gods ever truly real, or were they simply reflections of the human desire for control, for order, for immortality? The fading of their power only deepens the mystery, leaving us to wonder what truths, if any, lie behind their fall from grace. The Nile River flows through Egypt like the lifeblood of the land itself, carving its way through the heart of the ancient civilization and shaping both its physical and spiritual identity. To the Egyptians, the Nile was not just a river. It was the very source of life, the artery through which their culture, agriculture, and daily existence flowed. Its waters nourished the land, making it fertile in the midst of an otherwise barren desert. The annual floods of the Nile, which brought silt and nutrients to the soil, were eagerly awaited each year, ensuring the prosperity of Egypt's people. Yet this river, so central to life, was also a force of mystery and danger, holding within its depths secrets both known and unknown. The Nile's significance to the Egyptians cannot be overstated. It was the river's seasonal flooding that allowed for Egypt's agricultural success, creating the conditions for one of the most advanced and enduring civilizations of the ancient world. The floodwaters, which reached their peak around mid-July, transformed the dry, cracked soil into lush farmland. The abundance of crops that followed the floods was seen as a divine gift, a blessing from the gods, ensuring that the land would prosper and provide for its people. In this way, the Nile was not just a geographical feature, it was an essential part of the divine cycle, bringing balance and stability to the land. But while the Nile's annual floods were a vital part of Egyptian life, they were also unpredictable. The river's behavior was a mystery that, at times, confounded the Egyptians. Too much water could cause devastating destruction, flooding fields and villages, while too little water could result in famine and hardship. The ancient Egyptians believed that the Nile's floodwaters were controlled by the god Hapi, the god of the inundation. Hapi was depicted as a large, well-fed man, symbolizing the abundance brought by the Nile, but also reminding the Egyptians that the river, like the gods, was not entirely within their control. The river's mysterious fluctuations became a powerful reminder of nature's dual nature, its life-giving force, but also its potential for destruction. Beyond its physical role in sustaining life, the Nile also held profound spiritual significance. The river was seen as a pathway to the afterlife, with its waters representing both the flow of time and the journey of the soul. In Egyptian mythology, the Nile was believed to be the tears of the goddess Isis, shed in grief for her deceased husband Osiris. These tears, according to the myth, created the river that flowed through the land, bringing life to Egypt and allowing for the renewal of both the land and the soul. The river's association with life and death, creation and destruction, was woven into the fabric of Egyptian religion and culture. The Nile was both the giver of life and the reminder of its inevitable cycle, a force that governed not just the land but the very essence of existence. The river's symbolic significance extended into the afterlife as well. Many tombs and pyramids were built along the Nile with the belief that the river's flow would carry the soul of the deceased to the afterlife. The Great Pyramids of Giza, for example, were constructed in alignment with the river, ensuring that the souls of the pharaohs would be carried along its current toward eternity. The Nile, therefore, was not only a symbol of earthly life, but a passage to the divine, a sacred river that bridged the realms of the living and the dead. The reverence for the Nile, both as a life-giving and life-taking force, speaks to the ancient Egyptians' understanding of the balance of nature. The river's unpredictable nature, its annual floods and occasional droughts reflected the Egyptians' understanding that life, like the Nile, is a cycle of constant change, sometimes abundant, sometimes harsh, but always essential to existence. To them, the Nile was not just a river. It was the embodiment of life itself, a sacred force that both nourished and humbled, a constant reminder of the cycles that govern all existence. Beneath the surface of the Nile, where the river's waters flow with an eternal rhythm, there are mysteries that have yet to be fully uncovered. The Nile, though celebrated as the lifeblood of Egypt, is also a river that conceals its secrets, its depths hiding remnants of the ancient world that still elude discovery. Beneath its dark waters lie ruins, sunken temples, and forgotten tombs, remnants of a civilization that once thrived along its banks but has long since faded into history. In recent years, underwater explorations have uncovered fragments of ancient Egyptian history hidden in the Nile's depths. Ancient cities, lost harbors, and even entire temples have been discovered submerged beneath the river's surface. These ruins, once thought to be lost to time, are now slowly being brought to light, offering tantalizing glimpses into a past that was hidden for millennia. Some of these submerged sites are thought to have been constructed near the riverbank but were later lost due to shifts in the river's course or to the erosion caused by the Nile's seasonal floods. Others may have been intentionally hidden, perhaps as part of the Egyptians' ritualistic practices or to protect sacred sites from invaders. Perhaps even more intriguing are the countless tombs that remain hidden beneath the river's surface. While Egypt's most famous tombs, like that of Tutankhamun, have been discovered and studied, many others lie buried beneath the water. The belief that the Nile may harbor tombs of forgotten pharaohs, queens, and nobles adds to the mystery of the river. Could the river's depths be the final resting places of Egypt's most revered rulers, whose tombs were hidden from the world to protect their sacred remains? Or perhaps, as some believe, these hidden tombs contain treasures, lost artifacts that could reveal new truths about Egypt's history, culture, and religious beliefs. The river is also thought to hold the secrets of the gods themselves. The ancient Egyptians believed that the Nile was not only a physical presence, but a divine one. It was the tears of Isis, the embodiment of life and death. Was it possible then that the river's depths conceal relics of the gods, sacred objects imbued with divine power? Could these objects still hold the key to unlocking the mysteries of the gods and the secrets of immortality that the ancient Egyptians sought so desperately to understand? The idea that the Nile may harbor the ancient knowledge of the gods stirs the imagination, inviting us to contemplate what lies beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered. As we reflect on the river's hidden currents, we are confronted with the fact that the Nile, while a source of life and sustenance, is also a keeper of secrets. Its waters, flowing eternally through Egypt's heart, carry with them the weight of history, both the known and the unknown. The mysteries hidden beneath its surface are a reminder that even in a world as ancient as Egypt, there are still many secrets to be uncovered. And as the Nile flows forward, it continues to hold its truths in silence, offering only fragments of the past to those who are brave enough to seek them. The Nile has been the heartbeat of Egypt for millennia, shaping its culture, its art, and its identity. The river's importance goes far beyond its role in agriculture. It was the lifeblood of Egypt's spiritual and cultural existence. The river provided not only the material wealth that sustained the civilization, but also the metaphorical flow of life that connected the people to the gods. As the river winds through Egypt, it carries with it the stories of the pharaohs, the triumphs of ancient civilization, and the eternal cycles of life and death. In the art and architecture of ancient Egypt, the Nile was a central theme. The river was depicted in countless paintings, reliefs, and carvings, often shown as a symbol of fertility and abundance. The ancient Egyptians even created waterways and canals to channel the river's waters to their fields, ensuring that the life-giving water would flow to the farthest reaches of the land. In their temples, the Nile was represented as a divine force, sometimes personified as the god Hapi, the god of the annual inundation, who brought prosperity and fertility to the land. But the Nile's legacy is not confined to the past. Its influence extends into the present day, still shaping the identity of modern Egypt. The river continues to provide water and nourishment to the people of Egypt, sustaining the population in ways that echo the ancient practices. Yet even as the Nile remains a vital source of life, it is also a living reminder of Egypt's ancient past, a past that continues to shape the country's cultural and spiritual identity. The river's symbolic role in Egyptian culture also speaks to the eternal nature of time. The Nile's endless flow, from the highlands of East Africa to the Mediterranean Sea, mirrors the eternal cycles of life, death, and rebirth that were central to Egyptian thought. The ancient Egyptians believed that time was cyclical, with the river representing the eternal flow of existence. The river's waters, which rose and fell each year, mirrored the spiritual cycles of life and death, with the promise of renewal and continuity. In this sense, the Nile was not just a river, it was a metaphor for the eternal journey of the soul, flowing through time and space, carrying Egypt's secrets and stories into eternity. As we look at the Nile today, we are reminded of its power, not just as a river, but as a symbol of life, of time, and of the continuity of human civilization. The river, which has sustained Egypt for thousands of years, continues to shape the identity of the nation. And as it flows forward, it carries with it the legacy of the ancient Egyptians, the echoes of a civilization that was both of this world and the next. The Nile, both a physical and spiritual presence, is a timeless symbol of Egypt's enduring power, a river whose mysteries flow eternally through the sands of time. Despite the vast troves of knowledge we have uncovered about ancient Egypt, its monuments, its tombs, its royal figures, there are still parts of this ancient civilization that remain hidden, their secrets buried beneath the sands of time. The idea that Egypt's greatest mysteries are still waiting to be revealed lingers in the air, tantalizing scholars, treasure hunters, and dreamers alike. Perhaps the final and most profound secrets of Egypt lie buried in tombs yet undiscovered, or in sacred knowledge long lost to history. The concept of the Pharaoh's last secret speaks to the notion that there are still truths about this ancient land that we are yet to understand, secrets that could forever change our perception of Egypt and its rulers. The search for hidden tombs, particularly those of kings and queens whose resting places have never been found, continues to captivate the imagination. Most notably, the tomb of Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of Egypt, has eluded archaeologists for centuries. While the tombs of many of her predecessors have been found, Cleopatra's final resting place remains one of the great unsolved mysteries. Some speculate that her tomb may lie beneath the waters of Alexandria's harbor, hidden for over 2,000 years. Could there be a tomb, untouched and brimming with treasures waiting to be uncovered? The possibility that such a discovery could shed new light on the life of one of history's most iconic rulers, her relationship with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, and her role in the downfall of the Egyptian dynasty is a tantalizing thought. And yet, beyond the tombs of famous figures like Cleopatra, there are the countless other royal tombs that have yet to be found. The ancient Egyptians were meticulous in their burial practices, believing that the proper rites would ensure the deceased's safe passage into the afterlife. These tombs, hidden in the vast desert, could hold more than just the remains of powerful pharaohs. They could hold forgotten knowledge, texts, artifacts, and sacred relics that were meant to accompany the deceased into eternity. Some speculate that these lost tombs could reveal untold stories about Egypt's history, rituals, and spiritual practices. There is also the question of hidden knowledge. Many of Egypt's sacred texts and alchemical practices believed to have been held in great secrecy are lost to time. The books of Thoth, the elusive scrolls that are said to contain the secrets of creation and immortality, remain a subject of fascination. What if the greatest of Egypt's mysteries are not physical artifacts, but pieces of wisdom, arcane knowledge hidden away to protect it from prying eyes? Knowledge that could explain the deepest mysteries of life and death. The ancient Egyptians had a profound understanding of astronomy, mathematics, and the spiritual realm. Could there be teachings hidden in the sands that could radically change our understanding of the universe? As we delve into these mysteries, we find that the pharaohs, in their eternal quest for immortality, may have left behind a final secret, a truth that remains hidden, waiting for someone to uncover it. Whether it's a tomb that still awaits discovery, a sacred text lost to time, or a hidden chamber in one of Egypt's great pyramids, the final secrets of Egypt continue to beckon. The idea that Egypt's greatest mysteries are not yet solved adds an eerie and tantalizing layer to our understanding of this ancient civilization. We are left with a haunting sense of unfinished business. The belief that Egypt's most profound truths are still locked away, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. The desert that surrounds Egypt's monuments, tombs, and ruins holds within it a silence that is both profound and unsettling. It is a silence that stretches back for millennia, a vast emptiness that seems to echo with the whispers of secrets long forgotten. The desert is not just a backdrop to the great civilization that once flourished along the Nile. It is the keeper of mysteries, a place where the past has been buried beneath layers of sand, waiting for the right moment to be rediscovered. The silence of the desert is a reminder that there are still many things left unsaid, many stories left untold, and many mysteries that may never be solved. As we stand in the quiet vastness of the desert, it is easy to imagine what lies hidden beneath the surface. The great pyramids, the temples, and the tombs are visible. But what about the spaces in between? The hidden chambers, the ancient cities long buried, the secrets that the sands have kept from view for so many centuries. The desert, with its harsh beauty and relentless winds, is a place where time seems to stand still. Yet it is also a place where the passage of time has erased so much. Beneath its surface there may be artifacts, scrolls, and relics that have never seen the light of day, an endless trove of knowledge and history waiting to be uncovered. But there is something haunting about this silence. It is as though the desert itself is guarding its secrets, as if the land knows that some things are better left undisturbed. The stories of Egypt's ancient rulers and their divine power, the myths and legends of gods who once walked among men, these are not just tales told to pass the time. They are the echoes of a civilization that believed it could transcend death, that it could preserve its knowledge for eternity. But as time marches forward, the sands of the desert continue to erase the past, leaving behind only fragments that may never be fully understood. Perhaps then the desert's silence is not just the absence of sound, but the presence of something greater, a reminder that some things are meant to remain hidden, preserved in the stillness of time. The mysteries of Egypt, like the tombs and treasures buried beneath the sands, may remain just out of reach. The desert holds its secrets, and those secrets are as much a part of the land as the monuments that rise above it. The silence of the desert serves as both a metaphor for the unknown and a symbol of the fragility of history itself. What has been lost to time and what will never be found is both beautiful and tragic, a testament to the impermanence of human achievement and the enduring nature of mystery. As we reflect on the endless stretches of sand and the monuments that pierce the sky, we are left with a sense of awe and wonder. Egypt's mysteries are far from over. They continue to whisper to us from the past, urging us to seek, to discover, and to understand. Yet, like the desert itself, these secrets may remain beyond our grasp. The final veil of Egypt's mysteries may never be lifted, and perhaps that is as it should be. For in the silence of the desert, there is a beauty in the unknown, a quiet reminder that some things, some truths are meant to remain hidden, carrying Egypt's legacy into eternity.